Hi, I'm Jay from Real Street Performance, and here is a Honda B18C. The engine is of unknown history and unknown miles. It came out of a car and it was using a fair share of oil. Wasn't smoking a lot, wasn't leaking a lot, but the engine just kept consuming oil. So we're going to take the engine apart and diagnose what's wrong with it and then rebuild it. Why would you put RTV on a gasket like that? One of the reasons why in the service manual it asks you to change front main seal, rear main seal, and cam seals isn't because the seal's leaking, it's because they don't want the seal to get hard and groove the crank and groove the cams. So this engine, the cam seals and front main and rear main are super hard, and you can see that they've actually dug a trough in the crankshaft over time. Don't ever hit the rod bolt. So since we're not reusing the rods, it's okay for me to tap this, but if I were reusing these rods, I wouldn't beat them out like this, unless I was gonna resize the rods. The rings are like just relaxed in this thing. It's probably just worn out, you know? There's not much ring tension in the engine. So what's probably happening is the surface finish is worn out enough, the rings are worn out enough that it just, the oil's sliding up the bore. So we had the engine all apart, and I went ahead and cleaned the parts last night so they would be dry and I could look over them this morning. And what we have is a pretty well worn out engine. So there's not any catastrophic problems. There's some issues in the bearings we're going to talk about. There's a bore finish situation we're going to discuss, but overall we have just an engine that is a well-worn core, which isn't a bad thing at all. So we're going to go over some pieces individually. We're going to measure the bearing clearances that we have right now with the worn parts, so we have a point of reference to go back together, because most of my Honda engine building experience is K series and I don't have a lot of B series experience. So a point of reference doesn't hurt, because we know that what was here was working from a bearing standpoint, just was pushing oil due to wear in the bores. And later in the video, we're gonna head over to a long-term friend of mine, Jimmy Spinelli, who has a machine shop here in Orlando, that he has a profilometer, and we're gonna take a look at the bore finish. So we have a before and after on the bore finish, and really start to understand how bore finish affects how the engine controls oil. So looking over the crankshaft, the only real damage we have is from the seals embedding into the front main and the rear main. And like I said yesterday, Honda recommends changing those seals in intervals because eventually the seal gets very hard and can actually wear a groove, as you see here, into the crankshaft. As far as the journal finish as a whole, it's really nice. So it's a little dirty, it needs to be cleaned, but the overall finish of the crank is really nice, and I won't even polish it because it will be hard to get back to this slick of a finish that the crank has right now. And a lot of that is largely in part to the OEM bearings are very soft. So if debris enters the journal, the bearing will kind of accept that debris and it will just kind of get rubbed into the bearing and the crankshaft won't take that damage. So looking over the bearings, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's some interesting wear as you move down the crankshaft. This front bearing up in this area of the shell, which is the upper, it has some wear in this region. And as you go back down the block, you can see, ignore the deep scratches, but you can see some wear through here that follows into the last journal here. So this is a good indication that we're going to look at the align bore because we have some abnormal wear from the front of the crankshaft to the back of the crankshaft. As far as these scoring marks on the bearing, again, with the factory bearing, you have very good embeddability. And if I just take my fingernail and scratch one of these bearings, you could see that they get damaged pretty easily. And it's just a very soft bearing. So that's done in an effort to keep I can actually remove material with just my fingernail on the factory bearing. That's how soft they are. And that's on purpose. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but you're gonna get some of this when you take one apart from either a debris. There could have been oil starvation on startup. Somebody could have run the engine oil low on the engine at some point during its life, but you have some marks that coincide with the oil groove. So the oil groove has some marks on the upper bearing, and then those marks trace down into the lower bearing. So just something happened at some point during the engine's life that those parts met, and because the bearing was soft, it was able to absorb that failure and the engine continued to live. Another thing to observe here is this is the front of the engine, this is the back of the engine, and as you move to the back of the engine, the bearing gets worse. So very likely that at some point during the engine's life it was run low on oil. You know, you have oil available at the front but not available at the back because it's simply further away from the oil pump. I've gone ahead and measured the bearing clearance with the factory bearings and the factory crank just the way it was when we took the engine apart. And the bearing clearance is between 2/1000 of an inch and 1.5 thou depending on where you measure on the engine, which are pretty conventional numbers. If you're in that 2000s range on just about any conventional engine, you have a fine, safe number to work forward from. So that's where we're at. We won't put a numbered bearing back in this engine. It'll be a performance bearing. And at least now I have a point of reference. Although, like I mentioned before, with the main tunnel wear, the way that it looks on the bearings, we're gonna go ahead and align hone this block when it's at the machine shop. So looking over the rod bearings, on the uppers, there's pretty normal wear. So no heavy detonation, no nasty stuff going on there. But curiously on the lowers, there's delamination of the surface on all the bearings. So if we take a closer look at that, you can see that the layers of the bearings, you know, they're all kind of bonded together during manufacturing, and what's happening here is the upper layer is kind of peeling off and being ingested by the engine. So very, very small particulate that's processed. It didn't damage the crank at all, but the lower bearings are delaminating. So we went ahead and measured the rod bearing clearance with the factory bearings, and it's right around 1.5 thou. So we're gonna look at the pistons, and then we're gonna box all this stuff up and head to the machine shop. When you look at the pistons, they all have some uniform wear on the skirt. It's kind of an oval pad, and if we take a closer look at that, you can see that that area has been smoothed out by rubbing the bore over time. And what happens then is there's no oil retention there. And then it can start to chase, because if there's no oil retention, because it's a totally flat surface, then there's not really going to be the ability for there to hold lubricant, to hold oil. So you want to be careful with a situation like that, because if you've ever burned up a boosted engine, you'll remember that these little areas here get some kind of purpley black dark metal making spots, and it's because the oil is displaced, and it's right along the pin bore, because as the piston chases back up and down the bore, this is kind of like where the most of the force is met against the bore, and they try to spread that out amongst the skirt of the piston. But most pistons and most engines are going to get this type of wear like this. And if we take a closer look, we can see that that area has been smoothed out over time. Looking over the face of the rings, both the second ring, which is a Napier hook style ring, and the top ring, which is just a nitrated steel ring that you would commonly find in most aftermarket piston kits, there's just even wear across the face of the ring. There's not really any trouble, there's no distress, nothing's torn up. It's just even wear across the face of the ring. Looking at the bores, you can see that they're slick and shiny. Most of the cross hatch is worn away, and what that's allowing it to do is not have a lot of oil retained on the wall and not have a lot of traction for the ring to slide back down the bore and clear the excess oil off the bore, keeping it from consuming oil. So we're going to go ahead and put a profilometer on the block once we get to the machine shop and measure what the actual bore finish is like. But if I had to guess, it's just worn out. One of the last steps we're going to take before we head to the machine shop is check and see what kind of shape the bores are in. To the naked eye, they look like round holes, but as the engine wears, the bores can get ovality to them, or they can get taper to them. So they can be bigger in one axis than the other, or they can be bigger at the top than they are at the bottom. And you're going to account for that when you go to the next overbore size in pistons. So one of the things that you're getting when you go to the next overbore in pistons is a perfectly round, perfectly straight hole with an appropriate surface finish for your new rings to seat on. So we can give this block a quick measure and see what the egg and taper is like and make note of it. But again, it's a worn engine, and one of the things you're going to cure when you take your engine to the machine shop is getting those cylinders back in the right shape with the right finish so your new pistons work properly. So from the top of the bore, say we are about 3/4 of an inch down, to right about where the piston stops traveling, you have over 1,000 of taper in that cylinder. So that's a pretty decent amount. And you can move to the next cylinder, you'll probably see a similar situation. See how much the bore shrinks up as you move to the bottom? So this is one of the things you're going to cure when you move to an oversized piston. And also note that so far the cylinders aren't even the same size as one another. And if we check the egg, so we are about 1.5 thou there. And if we turn the gauge in the bore, we pick up about 1/2 thousandths of egg. So not one cylinder is the same size as the other, and they have both egg and taper. So you have a worn surface finish, and you have bores that are not round, and they have taper to them. All of these things are going to be cured with proper bore and honing. So we're here at my buddy Jimmy's shop. Jimmy and I were actually kids together. We went to high school together, started playing with cars together as kids. So there's a lot of history, a lot of trust. He's got a machine shop here in Orlando, and he's gonna help us sort this engine out. So Jimmy, in your words, what's a profilometer and how does it work?
So a profilometer is a tool that is used to measure a surface's profile and roughness. And instead of guessing, we can actually have target numbers to hit while finish honing. In this situation, you brought us this engine, and you see the cylinders in rough shape. What'd you bring us?
It's just a well-worn Honda B series. So unknown history, all the cylinders, the spark plugs look the same, just oil passing through. Not a lot of oil out of the tailpipe, but it would consume enough oil that you'd have to be putting oil in the car once every couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, obviously, look at the cylinders, you know?
Yeah, they're pretty worn.
What do you say we just do a before with the profilometer?
Yep.
Just to see, and what we'll see is some really to keep it basic and simple, is just some really low roughness numbers.
Okay.
Based on these cylinders that are very, glazed, worn, everything else. Have some miles on it. So let's confirm it.
Okay. So basically, it's like a digital magnifying glass that reads the surface of the bore.
Correct. Peaks, valleys, roughness. Okay. So what we're looking at here is just really low roughness numbers across the board. This confirms what you're saying. Just to give an idea, like the RK, this value here, it's 7.99, should be maybe somewhere around, for this stock application, everything maybe around 30. RPK is at 3.96. That's what your rings actually touch. Okay. That roughness, that should be probably right around 10, 8 or 10. Anyway, so all these numbers are very low. So the profilometer really shines while we're finished honing the block. First thing we do is understand what the power level is of this engine, type of rings being used, type of fuel it's going to be used, and we can really cater the roughness of what the cylinder bore needs to be, so this can live. Be a happy engine.
If you have like a stock rebuild engine, you're going to have a certain surface finish. If you have an engine that's going to be using a ring that's going to be subjected to a lot of heat, so you've got a high boost engine, that ring's going to be harder, that's a different surface finish. If you have an engine that's going to be using alcohol for fuel, like ethanol or methanol, that's a different surface finish. If you ever had an engine that the engine produced a certain amount of blow-by, and you went from gasoline to an alcohol-based fuel, you notice that you now are experiencing a larger amount of blow-by. It's because there's additional fuel in the cylinder that's rinsing the oil off the cylinder, and the rings seal on oil. So the peaks and the valleys of the crosshatch mean a lot as you go into a finely tuned, well-working, reliable, and powerful, long-lasting engine. So a tool like this, with the proper tools and knowledge, you don't have to guess and you don't have to assume anymore. You can read the surface finish, have some targets to head towards, and know before the engine goes back together that part of the engine is right. So just like you check bearing clearance to know what the oil clearance will be in the engine, you check the cylinder wall finish so you know what you have moving forward. Roughly how much size changes between, you've got the bore roughly to size, it's straight, it's not egged, it's not tapered. You're going to start working the bore from the raw bored state to a finished hone. About how much material are you talking to work with there?
To achieve the numbers we're trying to achieve,
it
happens in the plateau right at the end. Okay. So we actually go to size with numbers that are larger than we're trying to hit, and we actually change the stones. We go from diamonds to CBNs, and we actually plateau at maybe 6-7 strokes. That'll vary. Okay. And that's what we're watching and gauging to get that number, to get our core numbers, get our roughness numbers down to where we want them to.
Okay.
We can always we can always make it smoother. On that finish. Finish. Right at that last step in the honing process, and but it's right at the end.
Okay, so we'll get it fixed up and get it back to us.
You got it.
Thanks.
We'll make it happen.
All right.